Hello and welcome back to another video of GJax here, and today I'm going to be reacting to With All My Heart by The Lost Narrator. And this is the third and final part of the autograph Songs of Sorrow series of vinyl Octavia. Now the two last ones were sad, so I'm expecting this one to be sad but also good. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin this.
The machine connected to the pony in the hospital bed continued its constant beeping sound. The green lights on the heart monitor screen peaked, then descended time after time. Octavia turned her head away from the screen and looked around the room. Over the bland off-white walls, colorful posters of bands and DJs had become the new wallpaper over the past few months.
Alright, and just to clarify, I'm also going to be quiet for this reaction because there's not really that need for talking in a fanfic, so yeah.
Balloons, fresh bouquets of flowers, and stuffed animals filled the left-hand side of the room. Some were from loyal fans, but most of it was from friends. How many months had she spent in this room? Octavia shuffled her hooves against the cold white tile and looked towards the bed. The mare in the bed laid there quietly, not moving except for the small rise and fall of her chest. Her muzzle was covered with a plastic mask to regulate her breathing as the IVs helped regulate the fluids in her body. Her electric blue mane was brushed straight down to touch her shoulders. Although Octavia made sure to brush it every morning, she could never get it the way Vinyl liked it. But it was better than looking like she had bedhead every morning. Octavia looked at the picture frame on the side table beside her. It was of Vinyl, herself, and their friends. Lyra, Bonbon, Derpy, and Carrot Top came to visit once a week. They always brought something with them. Usually, Bonbon brought Octavia goodies such as cookies, or a small pastry as a snack while they chatted. Octavia always gave them the latest news. Most of the time, there was nothing new to share, except this last time was different. It seemed like hours sitting there in the room with Vinyl. Today time seemed to pass by even slower. She heard the clack of hooves approach the room. The nurse knocked softly on the door as she peeked around the corner.
Octavia, it's almost time.
Octavia looked at Vinyl and then at the nurse. She slowly nodded and got up from her chair. All right. Octavia followed the nurse down the hallway, her eyes to the ground. She thought back to how this had all started, the very beginning.
Okay, so sorry for talking, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a flashback because it says all to the beginning, and that just means flashback. Let's see if I'm right.
It was at the concert hall at Camelot. All the fancy ponies had gathered to listen to an overpriced show her orchestra director had put together. She had just straightened her tie and set her cello in place when Octavia spotted her. How she stood out from the other ponies, her electric blue mane, and how to wear glasses indoors. The aristocrats would cringe at the thought. Octavia didn't, though. No, she had just found her captivating. When she played that night, she could barely feel the bow in her hose. Her eyes were on the mare that stood out from the rest. After the concert, Octavia packed up her cello and was heading out the door when a figure caught her eyes. There was some pony waiting for her in the doorframe. The mare she had been watching all night had waited for her. Octavia was panicked. That is, until the mare extended a hoof. A white rose was presented to her. Vinyl, she said. My name's Vinyl. Their relationship had kicked off since that one evening. Turns out that Vinyl had been saving her bits to try and get into one of those fancy concert halls just to try and get to talk to her. It was cliché, especially the rose, but it was also romantic. Soon, simple hangouts turned into dates, and the past 2 years they had moved in together. During all of this, Vinyl had introduced Octavia to her friends from Ponyville. She remembered being nearly suffocated to death with hugs, but it was a heartwarming memory. She should have noticed something was wrong. The morning she walked into the apartment, to see Vinyl collapse on the kitchen floor, her purple sunglasses shattered across the tile. Her world had come crashing down that day. She called for an ambulance. Soon, red and white lights were outside. 2 stallions loaded Vinyl into the back of the cart, Octavia climbing into the back with one of them as the other galloped towards the hospital. The stallion had attached an IV to Vinyl's foreleg and had placed a mask over her muzzle. Octavia sat there, brushing Vinyl's mane, tears pouring down her cheeks. As the cart slowed to a stop, the doors swung open. 2 ponies quickly got Vinyl off of the cart and rushed her into the hospital. Octavia galloped after them, only to be stopped by a large pony in a white coat. Octavia tried to push the pony out of the way as she began to lose sight of Vinyl.
Let me go! I need to be with her!
The stallion held Octavia in place.
Madam, I'm going to have to ask you to stay in the waiting room and let the doctors do their jobs. Do you understand?
Octavia looked down the hallway. Vinyl had disappeared into one of the rooms. She sniffled and nodded. The stallion led Octavia into the waiting room, where he offered her a tissue.
I assure you, miss...
Octavia! The stallion nodded.
Well, Miss Octavia, we will keep you updated on your friend's condition when we learn the details.
Octavia nodded and blew her nose into the tissue.
Oh, thank you.
The stallion nodded and trotted out of the waiting room. Octavia stared at the clock. 1 hour ticked by. 2, 3. No words had come of Vinyl's condition. She had gotten up and asked the nurses, but they just shook their head, saying they didn't know anything yet. So, she just sat there, waiting, trying not to worry, assuring herself everything was going to be fine. Why didn't she admit the truth? Why didn't she admit to herself that everything felt like it wasn't going to be okay? Octavia began to pace around the room. A pony she hadn't seen before approached her.
Octavia?
Octavia nearly jumped at the sound of her own name.
Yes?
The nurse cleared her throat.
Come with me.
Octavia trotted beside the pony.
How is Vinyl? Is she okay?
The mare turned towards her. Her eyes weighed heavy on Octavia.
We tried our best to help Vinyl's condition, but unfortunately it will take a while to correct. You see, Octavia, it's her heart.
Octavia felt a pit grow in her stomach.
But you'll be okay, right?
The nurse sighed.
We can keep her alive for now, but there is no guarantee of the future if the procedures we suggested don't work.
She laid a hoof on Octavia's shoulder.
We'll have to keep her asleep to prevent her heart from overworking.
Octavia felt herself begin to shake.
Asleep?
The nurse nodded.
Yes. She's awake, for now. She asked for you.
Octavia nodded slowly, and they continued down the hallway until they reached one of the last doors on the left side of the hallway. The nurse opened the door and nodded to Octavia. Octavia trotted into the off-white room. Octavia could hear the soft beeping from a corner next to the hospital bed. Octavia.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I really don't mean to do this, but I gotta end the video right now because it's getting kind of long, and I want to hear the rest of this to see what happens. So I'm so sorry if this is a cliffhanger for some of you. It's also a cliffhanger for me if that makes you feel better. But I gotta end it because it's getting kind of long. So yeah, and I do have a 15-minute limit. So yeah. Sorry guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching my reaction, but I will continue this, I promise. And please like, subscribe, and if you haven't, then please do. And don't forget to comment down below on what you think I should react to next. React out.